Hi, I'm GM Matthew Sadler.
And I'm WIM Natasha Regan. Welcome to our latest video on the series about TCEC 17, the Top Chess Engine Championship. At the moment, in the lead is Stockfish, followed close, well, not too closely actually, by Fire, and then a number of engines follow. And today the matches are starting between CPUs and the neural net type engines. The game we feature today is Fire against Komodo, and it's in a Semi-Slav. These are both CPU engines. It's a Semi-Slav, quite a sharp opening, and it's considered maybe a little bit better for white. Fire manages to play an interesting move on move 11 e4, and Komodo counters with a very interesting plan, which is to sacrifice a piece and gets a lot of compensation. The position is very interesting, and Fire sacrifices a piece back, and in the end we get a lovely shogi moment where Fire runs with its king in order to gain some time.
Yeah, it's a really interesting game, and well, just nice to feature a new engine. So not Stockfish or Houdini this time, but one that you might not have heard of, Fire. So let's have a look at it. Okay, let's have a look at this game. So this is Fire against Komodo MCTS. Which is actually a special version of Komodo. I don't actually fully understand what it does, but it sort of it seems to add some sort of Monte Carlo tree search stuff at the end of its normal search. So a little bit inspired by AlphaZero, I saw on the product box. So something like that. I mean, in general, the normal Komodo seems to be stronger, but Komodo MCTS plays a little bit differently, and well, it's managed to keep its place in the Premier Division for quite a long time now. So the opening, as specified by the TCEC, was d4, d5, knight f3, e6, c4, knight f6, knight c3, c6, e3, knight bd7, Queen c2, bishop d6, and now g4.
And it's very appropriate that Fire, who is white in this game, is playing g4. G4 was a creation of Alexei Shirov, and Shirov wrote a book on his best games, which coincidentally was called Fire on Board.
Yeah, I think we've got a good punning title there for our for our video. I think it's I mean, it's a very creative idea. I mean, what's the basic idea of g4? Well, I mean, if knight takes g4, first of all, rook g1 will get that pawn back on g7, or force black to play the incredibly ugly knight h6. Well, if black doesn't take that pawn, g4 to g5 is actually a very annoying threat, because well, the knight hasn't got a good retreat square, because its natural retreat square on d7 is covered by the other knight, and it can't move into e4 because the knight and the queen are covering it. So it's a very odd move from white, but it's very dangerous. So the book continued: d takes c4, bishop takes c4, b5, and this was where
this was the end of the move specified by TCEC.
That's right. So now the engines are on their own, and Fire played the main move, which is bishop e2. And in all fairness, white has scored pretty well in over the board play from this position. Yeah, I mean, it's I mean, this is what happens with the TCEC Opening Book. They go for unbalanced positions, and you know, ideally they'd like the engines to be scoring some wins as well, you know. So that's why they do that. Often they just dump them into slightly tricky positions and then see what they come up with. And actually, Komodo
move here over the board is that black plays bishop b7.
That's right. So bishop b7 has been the main move, but Komodo MCTS comes up with a well, a very nice idea. I mean, it's basically, if this works, then then black's position is absolutely fantastic. He plays b4, just disrupting the white knight. Bishop b7, obviously going to put the bishop on that long diagonal, a8, h1. And after all, yeah, I mean, g4's also got some drawbacks. It's weakened the knight on f3, for example. And now this move e4, which is quite a rare guest. I think g5 has been the main move, which has also scored, pretty well for white. But I mean, e4 really sort of fights the point of black's eighth move, which was d takes c4, which was freeing a square for the black knight on d5 when it gets chased by g5. So, for example, this is possible. And after e4, knight f4 is interesting, although I think probably still very good for white. Well, e4 stops that. e5 is threatened, forking the bishop and knight, and g5 will also be very awkward. But Komodo MCTS has got a really interesting plan here. So queen a5, threatening a sneaky little idea, which is b4 to b3 check. So white plays b3, just protecting the stopping that, and also protecting the knight, because well, if white had played something like bishop d2, then knight takes c4 would have been annoying. Queen takes c4, queen takes a4. So b3, and now this incredibly brave move c5.
So white is threatening and indeed plays e5 to pick up a piece.
That's right. I mean, I think this is a novelty, actually, c5. I think e5 was played before, but simply g5, knight h5, and knight takes c5 looks very, very strong, because after all, this knight on h5 is hanging. And of course, the move you desperately want to play is to open up the line of this bishop. So Fire took up the gauntlet, e5, c takes d4, and e takes d6. And, I don't know, I mean, intuitively, I could really imagine that the black's position is not bad here. If you just look at what black's got, I mean, he's got some good central pawns, d4, and once the pawn moves e5 to e4, then, that can become a pretty fearsome duo. A lot of pressure along the a8, h1 diagonal. I mean, this move g4 looks a bit odd. The knight on f3 is undefended, and of course, well, if the king castles Kingside, then well, white would rather not have moved the g-pawn. I mean, there's some random tempi from black on the white queen, bishop e4, rook c8. The black queen's got a nice spot on d5. You could sort of imagine that that black might conceivably have enough for the piece. However, that turns out not to be the case. I mean, it just looks that essentially black's a move down. I mean, if black had already castled his king, I think he'd be doing great. But with the king in the centre, it just emerges that the advance of these pawns, even if black wins a piece back, it's not actually too bad if the black king is caught in the centre. And somehow this black queen is very tactically vulnerable. It gets hit by knight b2 to c4, by queen d3 to b5. And that just, all those little factors just seem to put a little bit of a brake on what black can actually do. So that's not to say that that I would find it easy to defeat Komodo MCTS from this position if I had white, but for engines, this turns out to be extremely possible.
So Shirov can still be happy with his line.
Exactly. It's I mean, in actual fact, this move g4, although it's a big weakening, this g5 is still a very disruptive move, and well, we'll see all those little factors that I've mentioned for white turning out in the game. So black played e5. I was sort of, yeah. I mean, I did like. I was looking a lot at castles. But actually this move g5 again is quite annoying. I mean, black plays knight e8. If knight e4, then white can play this move queen d3, e5 and queen b5, which is really annoying. It's attacking the loose queen on a5 and also attacking the bishop on b7 and knight on d7. So actually you just end up exchanging off the queens, which is obviously quite nice when you're a piece up. And well, I mean, knight e8 is possible, you know, just keeping the attack on the knight on f3, but it's not really, yeah, I don't know, it just didn't really feel that that great for black. Some counterplay, but not enough for the piece. So I mean, e5 is interesting, and then Fire plays a good move here. I mean, it's a good opportunity to get that knight active, because once that knight comes to c4, d6 is defended, and also the c file is blocked. So that's two sources of counterplay for black, you know, just really cut out. Queen d5, just teeing up along that diagonal. I mean, if you play something like knight c4, then moves like d3, you know, become possible. But yeah, Fire plays very calmly here, just rook g1, getting out of the way of that pressure. What is white going to do if black does nothing? Well, knight c4 and knight h4 to f5, just you know, avoiding any of the problems and just putting the knights in really strong positions. So Komodo MCTS decided that it was going to play queen takes d6, knight c4, queen c7. So what's the point of that move? The idea is simply you take the pawn, you've got two pawns to the piece. If you can get in castles, then d3, e4, these are going to be big threats. You know, I mean, that's, and also, you know, white's still got to work out precisely where his king's going to go. You know, it can't go on the king side now after rook g1, and queen side could get a little bit worrying, you could imagine. But now, well, I mean, this g4 move, Shirov's fire on board move, comes to Fire's rescue, because it plays this excellent concept. G5, in we go. Knight d5, and then this superb move that I think yeah, Leela also pointed out whilst it was analysing the game on the TCEC. It's quite nice actually. Whilst you're looking at these games between the engines, there's always some other machines kibitzing, you know, watching and giving their opinion. And well, Leela wanted to do this as well. Knight.
Fire fought fire with fire.
Indeed.
Knight takes d4.
Knight takes d4. And well, we said that black was kind of missing one move and getting the king to safety. And well, this is sort of the demonstration of it. So king d8, queen d4. I mean, what has white achieved here? I mean, obviously given the extra piece back, but got rid of the black central pawns, and in particular, you know, their pawns on dark squares. And of course, you know, the big piece that black has lost is the dark squared bishop. And you look at all the dark squares, central dark squares, e5, d6, c5, c7, e7, and you know, that really does look very fragile. And, you know, if we leave white to his own devices, he's going to play probably bishop e3 and castles, or bishop b2 and castles queenside. And, well, I mean, you know, what are you going to do about that? So Komodo MCTS keeps on going. Queen takes h2, disruption against the rook on g1. But Fire plays a very strong sequence of moves now. Very, very important to do this. So we've got rook g3. And this blocks the defense of d6 by the black queen. And you see how important that is, because on the next move, white plays knight d6. Big knight fork there. And, well, the idea simply is that, you know, if knight takes b7, then the knight on d5 falls, and then black's king is completely dead. So, I mean, really, it's a now or never moment. You know, I mean, either you've got something with black, or the whole line is just not good enough. So Komodo goes for it. Queen h1, king d2, and rook takes e2 check. Bang. King takes c2, knight c3 check. So, I mean, this is fairly dangerous. I mean, that if white goes something like king e3, then queen e1 check. Looks rather dangerous. Probably mating in actual fact, or at the very least winning stuff. King f4, knight e2 check, for example. So, but rook takes c3, is obvious. B takes c3. And now, as Natasha said, we're teeing up now to a good shogi moment. I'll just play these moves first. Just grabbing a pawn, opening the black king. But it's a famous shogi exactly. It's a famous shogi proverb that running with the king is worth 8 tempi. I don't think it's that much in chess, but still, sometimes running with the king is the best way to escape an attack. And well, black's threatening queen f3 check here, which would be perpetual. So king to d3. And it looks very dangerous still. But in actual fact, that knight on d6 is a monster. It's covering the c8 square, so a rook can't get there. Well, the queen on d4 is covering c5 and e5 from the knight. Knight's covering e4. You know, just there aren't that many white pieces developed, but the ones that are beautifully centralized. And of course, we've also got ideas like bishop a3, for example. You know, maybe even sacrificing the rook, but getting a huge discovered check on the king. So yeah, it's really unfortunate for black, but it just seems to be just very, very good for white. So Komodo MCTS played check, knight b6. And then Fire just liquidated and developed. And all of a sudden, from looking behind in development, white looks ahead, you know, just in one fell swoop. And, well, I mean, the problem is that pawn on c3 is really, really bad. Komodo MCTS tries to, well, exchange off queens just to survive. But this pawn is actually going. And we reach this rather unpleasant rook ending for black. I mean, the engines don't assess it as complete loss. I think they assess it as plus 1.5 pawns or something. But I guess it probably is losing, at least with you know, good technique. The black problem is that pawn on a5 is hanging, and that rook on e5 with white is beautifully placed. You know, defending its own pawn on g5 and attacking the pawn on a5. So black has to go passive, which is obviously, this is the thing you never want to do in rook endings. And has to, well, kind of wait a little bit whilst white brings the king in. A few shimmies there. King takes a5 and rook b5. And now you know, the rook is also acting like a nice shield here as well. So rook b7, attacking the pawn, king b5. And, well, I mean, we are just going to be playing a5, king c6, and using the rook as a shield. I mean, it's not trivial by any means. I mean, you could easily lose this stuff, especially in a blitz finish. But for engines, obviously, with their you know, with their table bases on top of everything else, they know exactly which endings are winning or not. And of course, you know, the king is so far away from the rook's pawn that even king and rook's pawn versus king and rook is going to be winning in a lot of cases. So here, this is a very typical idea. The rook's forms makes a sort of an umbrella, and you know, behind that the king is just going to be able to well, just help the pawn advance. And here, actually, Komodo MCTS resigned. I believe that the main line was, I think it was king b7, king b7, h4, a6. I think that was the line. Then a7, and then rook b1 will stop the pawn from queening. It's I think I also looked at I think one of the lines I was looking at as well was h4, king b7, a6, h3, h2. Well, h2 I've got rook h5, you see. So I think maybe, so look at king h6, a7, h2, rook b1. And yeah, I mean, I think these.
Still got to go and take that pawn off.
I think one's going to go and take that pawn. I'm not quite getting it right, I'm afraid, but it was, yeah, I mean, it was pretty clearly winning. No, so that was quite, it was quite an interesting game in actual fact. I mean, I'm a little bit sad for Komodo MCTS, I have to say, because I really like this concept. you know, I really thought that this concept was getting all the pieces, you know, sort of aggressive and active and attacking stuff in the center. Yeah, I mean, I really thought that this was going to be working, but somehow, yeah, just black's just one move too slow, and yeah, and it just ends up just falling short, you know. But I mean, you saw the complications. I mean, that wouldn't have been easy for a human player to navigate, but of course, you know, a really strong engine like Fire is you know, very much able to do that. So there we are. I hope you enjoyed that. We're going to head up now into the really thrilling part of the TCEC, because now the neural nets, the GPU engines are coming into the fray, and they're going to take on the CPU engines. So they're doing some testing today, March 24th, as we speak. And then, well, a little bit later, hopefully they'll start with the matches, and well, we're going to see how that goes. It's the games have been pretty good, as you can see already, but this is where the thrills and spills start.
One of the advantages of working from home is that now that I've been fired up by the game you just saw, I'm going to be watching. At the same time as working, I can watch a screen on the background, and so I won't miss a moment of TCEC 17.
Exactly. It's going to be good. So you know, please do take a look at that, and you know, subscribe to their channel if you can. I mean, it's all run by volunteers, you know, so they do a really great job. And of course, you know, subscribe to our channel if you haven't subscribed. And if you love computer chess, then do take a look at Game Changer, which features the greatest engine of them all, AlphaZero. I
wonder if they continue to do to send out books. Will we still be able to do that for a while? I don't know, but there's always an electronic copy as well. So if you are interested, then take a look, either hard copy or electronic copy.
Yeah, there's a great forward chess app, which we actually demonstrate on one of our videos on the site. And there's Chessable as well, and actually the Kindle version is pretty nice as well. So lots of opportunities there. Okay, well, thanks very much for watching. Keep well, keep safe, and well, keep watching. We've got lots more plans.
Thank you for watching.
Thanks for watching.